Well, hi, my name is Derek Demore with Futures Networks Live, and we're here to do part of our indicator series, Bollinger Bands. Today, we're going to show you how to add Bollinger Bands and maybe how they're going to help your trading. On this chart, I have a 2 sigma Bollinger Band in the pink, and then I have a 4 sigma Bollinger Band in the blue. Hopefully, by the end of this, you'll have a little bit of confidence and direction on how to use Bollinger Bands and how to add them. So let's move forward. Now, in case you already know what Bollinger Bands are and you use them, the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to add them to your chart. So again, we go to our indicators or right-click indicators, and you would go down to Bollinger and hit add. Now, I've already done that. This is the default and how it looks. It shows you the number of standard deviations and the period. Now, we're going to get into this, but John Bollinger himself, where this is from, he's a 2 and 20 guy. So that's how he does it. And that's what we're going to, the first one in the pink, we're going to show you how to do. Now, you could do bar close, or you could do on each tick or price change. Right now, I'm just going to leave it on bar close. You can play around with that. You can obviously edit the input to any chart that you want, right? And you can go down and look at less bars or more bars, but you need to look, typically that's a standard that we do. We leave everything else pretty much alone. If you want to take, put it in a different input series. Maybe you want the Bollingers on another panel. That's fine. You can do that. As you can see, you have different options. Price markers, I usually take them off to keep the right side of the price action uncluttered. And then we're going to make this visible since I already have it. Now, the colors that come standard are all the same. I personally would rather that you pick a color that you like that's not similar to your EMAs, and then have the center either a white or a different color, again, not similar to your EMAs, or you could do a transparent. You right click on any one of these. You could do it as a transparent, and then it's completely gone if you don't want to see what the middle is of the actual Bollinger Band. So you can hit transparent or black, and it'll die in with the background. But that's up to you. You can play around with this. I'll show you what I do in this situation. Each one of these is customizable. So if you went with the default, this is how it would look. But what we're going to do is, I've already got a template saved for so I'm going to make this one invisible. And what you can do is go and make a template. So this is how I have it set up, where I have 2 and 20. I'm going to keep everything else pretty much the same. And then right now it's not visible. I'm going to make it visible, but you can see the upper band I have is pink, solid line 2. The middle band I have is white as snow, solid line 2. And the lower band I have is the same as the upper band. That's just the way I've done it. So what you can do is go in, hit template, hit save, and then call it what you want, hit save, and then you'll have it forever as well. As long as you save your workspace, you will have it in here in your Ninja to apply at any time that you want. Okay, so I've just added the Bollinger Band right here. All right, and then you can also add another one. You can either add a 1 sigma. This is a 2 sigma, meaning 2 standard deviations away from the center price action. Or in this case, I wanted to add a 4 sigma. So we're going to make that visible. Now I make that in blue, the same 2 and the solid line 1. All right. So now I have a 2 and a 4 sigma Bollinger. So let's read. Now that you've done that, you can leave if you already know how to use Bollingers. Now we're going to talk a little bit about John Bollinger and his bands. So one thing I want to reference at this point is Randy Stewart, one of our outstanding members, has written a blog saying Bollinger Bands, ? What are they and how do they help me? I recommend going to our futuresnetworks.com and clicking on blog and then clicking on this. It's the most recent right now, but click on Bollinger Bands. And he goes through and describes in detail what he sees and how they help. Now I'm going to be reading a little bit off of this to help us to decide what Bollinger Bands are. So as stated, this was developed by veteran John Bollinger in the 1980s, and they're an indicator using a moving average with trend bands of equal distance above and below the moving average. In this case, it's a simple 20-period moving average. They are often referenced as standard deviations from the middle, and you can also call them sigma, which is the Greek letter for the standard deviation in statistics. And you can go, again, reference Randy's. Most of the price action, if you follow a two standard deviation, is 95% roughly between these two bands on the two standard deviation. So it basically shows the direction of the trend and whether it's above or below the average. The bands visualize the change of volatility in the price action. When the bands are contracting, the volatility is decreasing. So, down here, the volatility is decreasing. Let me put my annotate back up, right? So right in this area. And then when it diverges, the volatility increases, such as over here. Okay. Now, market direction. The middle of the Bollinger Band will point the direction of the current trend. In this case, look, this is current price action. We're up, right? And commonly, as we have the last 20 candles, if the bands point in the same direction, then the trend is strong. When the bands are diverging, in other words, price momentum is increasing the direction of the trends, and the bands start converging, then the trend is pausing, and look for a retracement. Warning, when the bands continue to converge and roll to a change of direction, look for a potential turnaround. Another sign of potential turnaround is when the price is at the extreme of the 4 sigma. That's 4 standard deviations, 99.5% of the time it stays between these two bands. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So that's basically the basics of Bollinger Bands. What you have to do is play around with them quite a bit, read articles on them. But Randy goes into detail on certain things that you might want to look for when it's touching the 2 sigma, how often, when it pulls off of the 2 sigma for a turnaround. There's a 2 sigma to a 2 sigma cross when it goes from one to the other side. And it happens a lot more, obviously, when they're contracted. But anyway, it's a dynamic channel. It really helps to give you the extremes of the market, which I know Crudele and many people talk about, Anthony Crudele, that you really want to trade the extremes. So look and use this to be a more helpful signal, one of your indicators to use when the markets are extremes. Now, they can continue on an extreme for a long period of time. But I like this summary that Randy put here. Confidence in a trade is a key component for consistent trading. He always used to worry, in a strong trendy movement that the market would unexpectedly turn. Now, while that is possible, more and more we see patterns reoccur in the market, like these 3 trips beyond the 2 sigma, and that stack up with a strong trend, a well-drawn channel, a standard turnaround, or other patterns. I will trade with more confidence and less worry. I can also have clear boundaries to manage my risk with greater accuracy because the moment the pattern fails, it's obvious, and I can manage the trade. So whether the pattern holds or fails, it tells me something important about the price action that I can use to inform my next trade. All right. So I think overall, this is a great way to introduce Bollingers, and we can do more videos on these, use them in conjunction with the RSI for divergence, which is one of our indicators, basically showing divergence on the RSI when the Bollinger Band is going a certain direction. So there's a lot of things here that we can talk about in the future, but it's definitely one of those signals that I think are worth looking at, one of the indicators. So let us know in the comments, and thanks for being part of Futures Networks Live, the indicator series, Bollinger Bands. And you can already see that, 3 or 4 times above the EMA, then it gives you a pullback. Now this is going against the trend. It touches, it kind of goes sideways, it touches. Third time that it touched, and now it seems to be rounding and going back to the middle. It doesn't always do this, but it's a really good indicator for trend. So thanks for being with Futures Networks Live. Derek Demore, Indicator Series. Travis is helping us. This is a great place to come and learn how to trade. Have a great time.